Our first step in including some custom CSS in our project is to add a file containing the CSS code to the _static directory. I'll add a directory called CSS first, and then add a file called custom.css. When I've done that, I can paste in the CSS code, which has the inline style and a class that can be applied to table cells. Having added what I need for the CSS file itself, I can now make sure it gets included in the build process. This is done in the conf.py file, and I'll add some code that defines a setup method, and when the method gets called, it'll add the style sheet we created. This add_stylesheet method will look in the _static directory as its starting location, and the build process automatically calls a setup method if we've got one defined. And now that our CSS file will be included in the build and output process, we can add the class reference to our table, which is pretty simple. We pop over to the file with the table, and then add a class attribute under the header rows that we already had in place. And we set the class value to the CSS class name we defined in the CSS file. Now let's build a project. If we have a look at the build folder, we should be able to see our custom CSS file included at this point. It's not showing up for me, but I was looking at this a minute or two ago. I'll refresh the view. Haha, and sure enough, there it is. You can see some other files here, and they come from the Read the Docs theme that we've applied. Let's make sure our table looks okay. We launched the page in a browser, and sure enough, everything looks like we wanted it to. The process to change styling elements is basically the flow that we just did here. To recap, we first had a look at the generated output in a browser and the developer inspection tools. Then we added some inline styling right from those tools to make sure we had it looking like we wanted it to. Then we moved that custom styling into the CSS file we created. And then we apply the class to the document elements we want. So now you can go have fun with your own custom styling.